What's popular YouTube? Another day, another demo. And today, before anybody asks, we will do a Smooya demo. It's Launders, everybody here, still in Barcelona, and I have a few more days left over, and I'm watching all these IEM winter games go on. I'm watching some of these Fnatic results. I'm thinking about all the games from the Blastfall final I still want to do, and there's so many demos to get done. But one of the ones that I really wanted to do while the event was going on was on Lucky. Finally, we get to name a video, Lucky or Godlike. Now, this is just going to be another demo review where we kind of talk over the match and use it as kind of a background to have a discussion just around Lucky and the new team and how he's doing. And this game was obviously very special because it was an enormous comeback versus Heroic, who were a big rival to Astralis. And I talked about some of the storylines with the Glaive demo about how Cadian, as people started to call comedian, came on in interviews and said, you know, whoever wins this series may have bragging rights for months, if not the year. And, you know, had a lot to say basically, but they couldn't close it out. And this game was quite cool to watch because Astralis were actually not banning Mirage for the first time in for the first time in years, right? This is always Astralis' permaban, but since they picked up BlameF and Config, who on Complexity, Mirage was their best map, right? Config is known to be one of the best Mirage players in the game, period. Blame puts up huge stats on this map. So, and Glaive is obviously a very kind of malleable mind when it comes to thinking about what to do next. He's never going to limit his teammates to doing what he wants to do. And never actually hated Mirage for any particular reason. I think they got 60-0'd by Renegades or 100 Thieves or something in a major. There was some match like that. And I think since then they just started banning it. But it's obviously a map that you're not bad at, right? You play FPL, you play Mirage. It's the most played map in CSGO. It's the one of the most played maps, just period, and it's played in all your pugs and everything. It's a map that everybody has a familiarity with. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that you can't be good at Mirage or better than Mirage at other players. And it was reflected in some of the recent games where Config and BlameF are not having trouble on Mirage, but Zipix and Glaive, they kind of are. But what's cool about this match is not only the idea that you're bringing in Config and BlameF, and now you can play Mirage and have a rotating permaban, which is what Astralis had throughout the tournament, but also we get to see who plays what spot, right? Now, Config is always going to play off Cat, but I thought what was really cool is seeing Lucky being the A anchor. And as much as I'm here to talk about the game, and this game I also casted, this was a very, very loud game with the amount of fans involved because Heroic and Astralis are both Danish teams, and this is a match where, of course, there was just so much banter and stuff. And one of the great things about Cadian is he's selling the game, right? It's like how Conor McGregor sells a fight, love him or hate him. If you watch to watch someone lose, you watch to watch someone win, that's a win for the game itself, right? That's a win for the viewership metrics. That's a win for the TO. That's a win for the community who get to either roast you or really get behind you for talking smack and backing it up. So we encourage the showmanship very much, and I think Cadian's actually pretty respectful about the way he does it. You know what I mean? I don't think he's saying anything too nasty. Just some friendly banter. So it's much appreciated. But Lucky, he's quite the opposite, isn't he? He's quite a quiet character. Lucky is somebody who Glaive, I spoke to him. He said Lucky's very closed off and is somebody who he has to get comfortable with you, very comfortable before he starts opening up and maybe telling jokes and stuff. And Glaive said he's actually pretty funny, but I mean, obviously we don't get to hear that. He's a new guy. And Lucky's also one of those players who his story is kind of funny. Like you know he's getting picked up for his skill, and you can see his skill right there. That's not even the first 3K he gets in this game. That's really nice work for Lucky. Not much more to that than we know the A hit's coming. Here's some very nice target selection. 2 down on the ramp, 1 on Palace. Beautifully done with the Famas, no less. The commemoration full of Navi stickers, Famas, too, as well. Very nice choice. But Lucky, that's quite a quiet one, and the new one is kind of interesting because he's not everyone's favorite rookie right now. That's Bits, And then there are a couple of players who, Flamesy playing on OG, for example. He's the apple of everyone's eyes. We've got a couple of players who people are talking a lot about, and Lucky's getting a lot of people talking about him, but it's a little bit more divisive, where his performances aren't like bits. You know, they aren't like somebody who's coming in and now carrying. It's not like when Brokey came on a phase. It's not like that, really. Lucky comes on, and the rumors about Lucky are that he's not even the first pick for Astralis to come on to the team, right? Lucky was originally hired as an opper for the squad, and Glaive made it abundantly clear that Astralis were not going to be able to be the top one in the world without an elite superstar level opper, right? A really good opper to replace Device. Not an opper to be like Device, but an opper to at least fill the impact gap, right? That he left because Device is just a really strong player, right? Even if Device dropped the op, he'd still be such a quality player. It'd be really difficult for, you know, someone to replace him, even though Glaive has proven his systems are very good at bringing in new talent, right? Esatag, Lucky, Kirby, the list goes on. Magisk, you know, some of these players maybe would have been good anyways, but it just, you know, there's definitely evidence that people are playing really well under Glaive, right? And Lucky, you know, it's like he's not Device, right? He's not Device. He's somebody who people barely knew. I mean, I watched his game on Tricked before he joined the team. That demo's on the channel, and you could see, I mean, very composed opera. I actually like what I saw a lot, but I also liked what I saw when I watched Chiquinho. And look at that! Look what happened there. Oftentimes I'm just cursing players that I do demos on, honestly. I really thought Chiquinho, I thought very impressive in the demo. I think I watched two of his games, and I liked what I saw, but definitely he wasn't the same player when he was playing on Fnatic at that level. And it could be that a change of scenery could change the world for Chiquinho, and I believe that change of scenery can change the game completely for certain players. I think Grim will be one of those players. You can see how well he's playing on a dead Team Liquid. You can tell it has nothing to do with his skill and everything to do with his comfort right now, because he's starting to open up a lot, obviously. A little too late, but Automatic going to Cloud9 is one of the famous stories of a player who Stewie said he saw a lot of potential in. Before Cloud9, he was just a nobody, really. You know, playing on, I forget that team. This is with Valens and, not Elysium. Shoot, I forgot the name. Someone's gonna remember it for me in the comments. But he played on another smaller team and off the radar, joined Cloud9, and then he was a top performer, one of the star players, core player for sure. And it's because the system and the chemistry and the comfort can mean a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean the world. So don't feel bad if you're a fan of a player that is buns. Okay, if you can see it in him or them, then maybe there's a world where they get to a new team and everything changes completely. I've seen it happen in all the time that I've watched CSGO. I've seen it happen. I'd have to use both hands to count. I've definitely seen it happen a number of times where a change of scenery has changed the game completely for certain players. All right, here's a round where window gets smoked and an op comes top mid. So my guess here is once they disrespect the information, they can start to make a move, or they can wait for the late top mid execute. It looks like that they wait for the flash to see if anyone takes a step, which is very smart because sometimes you can get opt on those flashes. Don't trust your flashes too much. That's a great example of when you don't, actually. And now the rotations come in, and there could be someone faking, and look, he's holding for that, but he's taking his time. Hold shift as long as you've got a player advantage. That's like a good rule of thumb. You can delay your flank a bit more if you're up numbers, right? If you're low numbers, maybe you start running on every nade or every spray that you hear or every smoke that plumes, right? And I think this is a nice mid round. So we're going to have communication here. Nade comes out. This is a good flash to know for getting out of the halls. Usually layer that with another window flash if you're just doing a normal exec. And this one might be a tough one to win. Actually, a little bit discombobulated on this retake, actually. I remember this round. Especially with numbers like that. Shouldn't be losing rounds like this, but looks like everyone didn't have the gun that they needed. 8-13, and this is where we're casting, and it's a pretty... The arena is getting a little bit quiet, and you're like, whoa. what's going to happen? And you look to Lucky and you say, okay, new guy, stats haven't been amazing. He's not Device. And you see Glaive is opping. But not only do you see Glaive is opping, you see Config is opping after Glaive as the hybrid. Now, it's not weird for Config to be a hybrid. It's just weird for Config to be a hybrid when Lucky is a primary that got hired to be a primary on Astralis. So, from the outside perspective, of course, you don't want to be too naive when you hear someone do an interview or people give certain answers, because sometimes players and staff and whatever are not going to give you the real truth about why something happened. And in my opinion, it's hard to say exactly what happened here, because Config does an interview and he says, Sponge asked him straight up. He said, "So Lucky's not opping. What's going on?" And I'm talking about in the cast. For their first game, I'm saying, kind of like poor Lucky, basically. He's not opping. He was on the team to op, and without the op, what's his identity on the roster? Could they not pick up another stronger rifler who's less of a question mark at this level, who's way more experienced? If there's, in terms of Danish players, they really have so many options. And it's not to say that Lucky's not a good player, but it's clear that he was picked up for a certain reason, and he's not serving that purpose right now. And then Config says, well, he likes rifling, and I can't comment on it. He says he can't say anything. Look at this. Look how perfect that is, by the way. That smoke is so perfect, where the way Lucky lines it up, that he can see within view. By the way, 16:9 user Lucky, 1920x1080 Lucky here, sets that up so that he can stop the walkout. And for those of you who might be new to CS, where Stound comes out of that smoke, he cannot see a damn thing. Okay, you can see his full body, but in his mind, he's still walking. He's still walking, and no one's stopping him. That's why he kind of walks out and he's holding to the side. He looks, to him, it feels like he might be getting caught on something, but for a second, it feels like he's still walking through and he can't see anything. So, if someone's standing in the smoke, sometimes they can be completely smoke blind. Seen a lot of interesting looks here from Lucky. Close A ramp plays here aggressively in the Palace. He played on the default one round, got caught off guard. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but yeah. The natural question is, if Lucky's not opping, is there not a better player you could find, right? And in this tournament, we found, damn, he's actually a really strong rifler, and also, you never know how good a player is going to be in front of a crowd on LAN. That's something that you just got to see what happens. And, look how steady his crosshair has been throughout this match. I mean, there are so many roaring fans in this audience. And for Danish players, Blast Copenhagen is their major. At least that's what Pimp said to me. This is their major, There's never been a major in Denmark. And I'd like to make a little comment on the crowd, actually. So a lot of people were talking about how the crowd was very, biased towards Astralis, and also cheating in favor of Astralis. And I'll say that's 100% true. There was, there are people yelling directly at them. There were, everything. I mean, the audience was doing their best to help Astralis win. Now, I'll say it's totally unclear if the players that were playing could hear much, if anything, right? I heard lots of players say they couldn't hear a thing. Doesn't mean that necessarily is true, but I will say any self-respecting player is not spending, even a quarter of their energy thinking about what the crowd is trying to say to them over actually playing the game and playing to win and whatever. The other thing is that people are like, oh, Glaive couldn't have done this and whatever if it wasn't for the crowd. The real funny part about that is Glaive has never played well in front of the Copenhagen crowd. And in 2018 and 2019, some of the most embarrassing defeats for Astralis were at Blast Copenhagen in both those years, where they were playing really well outside of Blast and then came into Blast and played horribly in front of the crowd and didn't even make it to finals at either of those events. So historically, even in front of the cheaty, roaring Danish crowd, Astralis have always played horribly, actually. Not just bad, horribly. And some people who are new might not know that. The other thing was that about the crowd in general being so... it feels like unaware of all, everything going on outside of Astralis. And that's definitely true, too. Astralis are the cynosure of Counter-Strike as a brand in the scene in Denmark. I mean, there's a place called Tivoli in Copenhagen, which is like the Wonderland or the Disney World or whatever of Copenhagen. And Astralis opened the Astralis Nexus inside of there. I mean, the foot traffic for all their youngest, newest fans of the next generation are basically going to be familiar with the brand because of that. Astralis are a team that their results get reported on in the news. They have plenty of Danish coverage. If you walk around and talk to people in Copenhagen, everyone knows Astralis, even if they don't know esports. Like, that's how big Astralis are, right? So there are a lot of Normans that are big Astralis fans. But as a Counter-Strike fan, you have to appreciate that how much Astralis have actually done inside of Copenhagen when it comes to creating an unreal fan base, honestly. Because a lot of people in the building didn't even know who Heroic were, didn't know Kerrigan was Danish, were booing him, didn't know anything except we love Astralis. I mean, even with Device changing teams, it didn't really matter for the crowd in Copenhagen. They're Astralis fans. So it's immense, basically, the amount that Astralis as an organization has done for CSGO esports inside of Copenhagen and Denmark. And what that means is we come into the event, Blast Copenhagen, and you've never seen as many fans who are young and old as I have at Blast Copenhagen. And that's apart from the fact that some of them don't know how to act when they're out there in the stands and they're like helping Astralis cheat and they're, booing shocks and all this different stuff. As bad as it was in that sense, it's a great thing that there's so many new people coming into the scene. It's a wonderful thing, actually. And one day, those people will be really well-versed enthusiasts. And some will go on and watch something else. Some will go to Valorant. Some will never even come back to esports or not care, or this will be the only event they watch. But some of those kids are going to be pro players one day. Some of them are going to be super fans. And those are the players people who are going to keep the scene alive. So I think we bear with the fact that they might be a little bit obnoxious or, not as into the scene. Hold on, let's see what happens here. So this is 10 to 15, so this could be a clutch moment. I want to see how Lucky plays it. Tucks right into default. He's got no pressure here, actually. Ooh. Brave enough to come up with the back of Firebox. You're always on match point, right? And he's got some guaranteed information here on the A ramp. And as long as Glaive is covering him inside a connector, the spot is open, but now it's a bit dangerous for Lucky. So we'll see how he plays it. You can see he's just being careful about the idea that they could come up on him. And now into Firebox. So like as the time ticks down, you might recede slowly into more one and done positions because that's all you really need to do. Firebox is one of those positions. And it's the idea that once the clock is very low, people will stop clearing things as much. And so one and done positions that you would not want to use if you were down numbers, usually, become really, really good when the clock is on your side. So you can see Lucky kind of go into like his thought process as the time went down into those more safe positions. Sometimes that means that you can be more readable from the other perspective. Right, if you're the team approaching the site and you're always executing late, you know where people fall back into the final positions. That can happen as well, but that's, I think, just a train of thought there. I forgot where I was at. When I was talking about Astralis and whatever. Just the next generation. It was just insane from that perspective. The other thing is that I've been to a number of events. With Blast, we went to Lisbon, we went to Istanbul, we went to Moscow, we literally have been all over the world, even just with Blast. And I've seen many crowds cheat, okay? Sao Paulo, I've seen many crowds cheat whenever there was a chance. Now, people finally reasoned out that the only way you can get an unbiased crowd is when you get a crowd that has a team that's so bad, or a scene that's so bad, they can't cheat, you know what I mean? If you have a team Blast Lisbon, you got a lot of fans for CS, but they don't have a team that's going to make finals or whatever. They're great fans, and coming into playoffs, they're not as much of a liability when it comes to compromising the integrity of the game because they're going to be cheering for whoever the best teams are, but are going to be relatively unbiased. That doesn't mean that we only want to go to locations where the crowds are going to be completely unbiased. And crowds cheating is literally just LAN. I mean, it's just a part of the game. It's in every single country that I've been to for the most part at some level. And people also were like, yeah, and also in Denmark, actually, historically, after Astralis have got eliminated, people just leave. I mean, no one even comes to watch. But at this event, the Astralis, the Vitality Na'Vi final, I put a video of it on Twitter. Everyone stayed. It was very impressive. I was kind of shocked, actually. And I think that was for a couple of reasons. Number one, this event was really good. I mean, it was such a wild scene. The walkouts were incredible to watch. I mean, the games are so good. It was just a great event overall. Holy crap, look at Lucky go, man. Wow, almost survived that too. It was such a great event that it actually kind of makes sense. Wait, this... Oh yeah, this is where Heroic could have won, actually, and Stown loses the 1v2. He runs out of bullets. Oh my, and Blame reads him perfectly. Wow, wow, wow. We might not even seen the comeback if not for that. But yeah. And then the other thing, the third and the 50th thing is that if people wanted to cheat, you could do it quietly with a sign and no one would know. Like, no one would know. There are signs at every single event. They don't give you signs, you can make them. And if you're sitting anywhere in view of the team that's your favorite, they're always facing the crowd at every single event in the world. You can help them cheat, right? It doesn't have to be yelling at them, which I think ironically works is much less effective, and yet is the biggest point of criticism. You could hear them saying things. Well, you know, the players have helicopter headphones on with white noise pumping in. Noise in general, it's so freaking loud, and vibrations, and then they're trying to listen to the game, and then they're trying to listen to their teammates. Unfortunately, no matter what people want to believe, one of the last things that they're listening to is for the little random things that people are shouting out in the audience, which is obviously rarely going to be in unison. What they're mostly hearing is just noise and vibrations and trying their damn best to hear footsteps. But not hearing footsteps is also just LAN. Do we want to put the players back in a back room where there's perfect integrity for the event, but you don't get to see the players interact with the crowd, and you don't get to hear the crowd go crazy? And you know, the crowd's not going to go crazy if the players aren't out. Do we want that? No, of course not. It's just LAN. It's what we want. It's part of the game, unfortunately, but that's it. I mean, there's crowd cheating in every single sport. So yeah, I spent a lot of time talking about that, but that was on my mind. But I really do feel like a lot of it was, I think a lot of things that were said were true. I just think that, this is my final point, actually, about that. I really think that people always came down on the booing, and Machine obviously, yelled back at the crowd when they were booing Shocks during the interview. But the thing is that the booing and stuff, like, it's also just sports, right? It was particularly frustrating because look at this hold, man. Look at this hold. On match point, do you know how loud the crowd was being right here? Lucky, look at his composure. I mean, his aim looks actually perfect. I don't think he gets another kill from this position. But he's already done enough. Traded down. I've already seen a fantastic game from Lucky, just from the perspective of all his holds. Good. Gotta appreciate it. He's playing on native, guys. Anything is possible, okay? Shoot, I forgot what I was talking about again. It'll come back to me. Lucky just took my breath away with this match, especially the second half. And now here we are in OT. Everyone's going nuts again. But yeah, it's just LAN. My final point is that if we did, or shoot, I forgot again. It's gonna come back to me. Don't worry, guys. Just so enamored with this Lucky demo. Okay, you dinked him like 800 times. That guy's gonna be dead in a second, for sure. Impacting almost every single round right here. Oh, they're coming out a little bit late. They were losing Heroic were definitely losing confidence. I mean, Mirage was a choke. If you ask them, they'll say they choked. They succumbed to the pressure. They had 11-4 half. They're super strong on Mirage. They've had some of their most clutch wins overall on Mirage. So this was absolutely a choke, no matter how you want to look at it. But if Lucky didn't have the game that he had, they would have choked and still won. Plant's compromised because the smokes came up. They took too long to put it down. They don't cover it well. And that's the end of this round. Okay. So because of COVID travel is my point. If this LAN, as good as it was and sold out every single ticket basically on all 3 days, wasn't in the middle of COVID, there would have been more people flying in from different countries. And then we would have had a world where a lot of the other teams would have had bigger representation in their fan bases. But a lot of people in COVID are not buying tickets to events because those events could get canceled. For example, the day after Blast ended, masks came back, and now we're not doing a live audience for the World Final. So it's a really risky time to buy a plane ticket and to pay for tickets for an event when it could get canceled. People don't want to plan around it. So you're going to have a really native crowd, right? And you want that crowd to make noise, whether it's booing or whether it's cheering. Like, you want them to be loud the whole time. So I'm personally okay with the booing. I think that's actually good, and that's just sports. And the people who are saying you should have been cheering for, you should be cheering for the other team to get kills, like, it's just a ridiculous concept. I mean, you don't go to sports games and cheer for the other team. Like, I don't know. Honestly, it's like touch grass. Like, when I think about that, I was like, would you go to a basketball game and cheer for the other team? Well, when I'm thinking about, like, would I go to a Leafs game and cheer for the Habs? Or would I go for, like, it just doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense. Like, when I watched the Cold Zera jumping off 4K happen live in front of me, and I was like, oh, like, I reacted. Everyone made noise because it was such an incredible moment. But it was one that you could not be happy about because it literally stopped your team that you're cheering for from winning. So, I don't know. I really feel like the people who were just like, they should have been cheering for every kill just haven't been outside before. Like, I don't even know what to say. To me, it's so ridiculous. So, that's all I've got to say about that. Like, I feel like that's just people staying inside for 2 years in a row. But I think the real problem was, and where people couldn't figure out what was wrong, was the fact that everyone in that crowd was Danish, and everyone was local, and everyone was an Astralis fan. But if it was a regular international event, more people would have flown out for it or scheduled around it or whatever come out. And there would have been bigger pockets for the Vitality fans, for the Navi fans. And there were good amounts, but way more from all over the world. And that would have balanced it out, right? Then you'd have the Astralis fans just as loud, and they have an advantage. But you'd just have the big enough fan sections for the other teams as well. And people asking about why Heroic, why didn't Heroic have such a big fan base? And it's because Heroic is so tiny compared to Astralis in terms of reach in the city. Like, everybody knows who Astralis is. Regular guys, regular people on the streets have never heard of Heroic. They don't know who Heroic is. So they're quite far from that, even though esports is quite advanced in Copenhagen. But I think Cadian and the boys won some fans at this event, and they'll be more recognized next time. And of course, they're probably going to have a great next 6 months or so to put themselves more on the map and shed their old skin. So, yeah, wow. I used most of this demo to basically talk about this whole crowd situation and everything. But I hope it didn't take away from Lucky, who've just been watching him play A with a ton of composure and looking like a rifler, right? And that's the thing. The rumor was that he was like the third or fourth option for Astralis. And that's what I heard from someone, like a primary source. That's what I heard from a primary source, that he was like the third or fourth option, and Astralis couldn't get other people, or they looked at other people, didn't get them. And Lucky was down that list. So, of course, to be doubtful of the idea, that he's the right fit, or, he could be just as valuable on a rifle than an op. I mean, nobody knew. Nobody knew, not even Lucky, how well he would play in front of a crowd and with so much pressure and in such a big organization and in a role that he wasn't even hired for. So, real credit to him. Super strong, and we're seeing, and now we're seeing stats taper off a little bit here at IEM Fall, and that the whole team is not the same. Of course, they're not all playing together. Like Glaive and Config and Blame, like they're built for lands, right? And we see Lucky's built for land. Zipix is nothing in a situation where they're not a real lands as well. So, regardless of if you think it's because of the crowd or whatever, they're land players. I mean, Glaive's the 4-time, all right? Glaive's the actual GOAT IGO. Biggest on-laner in history, so... Unfortunately, IM Fall is back to the hotel rooms. It's still a LAN technically, but you know what it is, guys. Who knows how long it is until we get back to the real crowds. But Blast Copenhagen will be my memory for years to come. The best. This is also very impressive. This clear on Cadian, he was holding that tight with an op. That's one thing that's cool about Lucky. He's just very aware of how operators could approach him. And that kill, I mean, that can seal the game up, right? Sometimes, especially with the op there, you could expect someone to be right beside Cadian in some kind of close A-ramp setup. Not necessarily, but you can, which means that connector might be weak for a second, or that someone might be ticket. If not, you could maybe get an edge coming up connector. All kinds of details about just that one move. Or Lucky gets a kill. They rotate well around it. And they come back. An insane comeback, I think, all the way from 14-8 to OT to winning an OT. I mean, what a match. Blade said one of the best feelings of his life to win these matches with this new squad in Copenhagen. And I share the sentiment. I mean, it was insane to cast. I mean, it was actually unreal to cast. The energy was incredible. And, oh, I forgot about that. Whew. Speaking of Cold Zera jumping off 4K. Wow. Wow. Well, that's a fantastic way to end. And a really, really cool demo. And a lot of talking points and stories. Again, some of these are narrative-based. I feel like I'm using this, the game as a background talk and narrative. We're going over it. If I see a match, a match that I'm watching very closely or a match that I watched a demo of before, I'm going to make more of those videos where I go over the round specifically and go into details about the exact strats. And I'm just going to go with the flow, whatever I feel like doing. And I find that I've just drifted more and more into just talking more about the narratives over time. So, yeah, that part is really interesting for me in CS. I really enjoy that as well. So we'll do a good balance. But hope you enjoy that one. That's Lucky as a rifler playing on the new Astralis in Lucky or Godlike, the video I've wanted to do since he joined the team, and some thoughts on Blast Copenhagen as an event, with the crowd, with the new Astralis lineup, with Astralis' impact in the city, which I got to go over a little bit, and with Lucky and a little bit of backstory on what I know of Lucky. So, yeah, that's a good one. I'll keep going. We'll do more. Let me know what you want me to do next. I already know it's Smooya. Don't worry, Smooya's going to come. We're going to do Smooya. Stay safe.